Good morning. I'm Martha Carnes, and I'm the chair of the governing board of the Greater Houston Community Foundation, and we are absolutely thrilled to welcome you here this morning to Understanding Houston. It's great to see so many donors in the audience, and we hope that you find this to be a very informative morning. Over the past 5 years, the foundation has hosted this event, and it's designed to provide information to our donors on critical issues facing our city, and we couldn't be more excited to be focusing on early childhood education, certainly a critical issue for us here in Houston. There are a number of organizations that focus in this space, and we're pleased to be joined by several this morning. And we just want to thank you for all you're doing, not only today, but also just day in and day out in addressing this critical issue.
So I've spent a lot of time down in the medical center this week. I just had my fourth grandchild on Thursday. So that's pretty exciting. And as you know, as I looked at my kids and my grandkids, I'm a byproduct of public schools, and my kids went to public schools. And I really hope my grandkids can go to public schools, because I have a belief that public schools really reflect what our communities look like. And if I look at what I do at HEB, that I work with and talk to and manage people every day that range from a pregnant teenager on welfare up to Harvard MBAs every day. And part of the key for success for me is the ability to communicate at all levels across that economic scale. And I think when you go to public school, you're able to experience our culture and our communities as we see them. And so I really aspire for my kids to go to public school. Yet I also know that my children are faced with, well, will the public schools really give them a great education? And one of the challenges that we're faced with is that a lot of kids entering public school in kindergarten are starting school behind. Kids from middle income and high income families are entering kindergarten with vocabularies of between 5,500 and 6,000 words, whereas from low income families are starting kindergarten with vocabularies of 1,500 to 2,000 words. So you always think of kindergarten as being the starting line, yet they're starting kindergarten like a year behind their peers, and they never get caught up. So we looked at HISD, and we found out that HISD has about a 30% dropout rate. And then we began to look at the jobs that are being created in Houston, and in 2018, about 60% of all the new jobs in Houston are going to require some sort of secondary degree, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year or some sort of specialized training. And then you look at lower socioeconomic kids, and if you're from a lower socioeconomic family, there's a 1 in 10 chance that you're going to graduate from college. And so you see this huge gap. Then you go and you look at our demographic makeup and what's happening with this demographic wave in the state. And regardless of how you feel about immigration or what's happening there, look, it doesn't matter if not one more immigrant came across the borders illegally. The fact is that our state is going to become more diverse over time because old white guys like me aren't having more kids. We're taking care of 3 grandkids right now at home, and I said to my wife, who is exhausted right now, I said, let's have another baby. And she just looked at her head, looked at me and just shook her head. She's like, I'm exhausted. And so, what happens is look, if we can't provide great education for all people who live, all children who live in our community, we're going to fall behind. And so I lived in San Antonio for 12 years before I moved to Houston, and I was always struck by the type of businesses that were attracted to San Antonio. San Antonio has a lot of call centers, and call centers they pay $12, $15 an hour, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder why those are the kind of jobs that are attracted to San Antonio versus you look at Austin, high-tech capital, you look at Houston, the type of jobs we've historically been able to attract here, being an energy capital, and a lot of it is a function of the type of students that you're able to graduate. And so when Toyota built their manufacturing plant just south of San Antonio, they had over 500 first-line managers that paid very good entry-level wages. They interviewed 5,000 people for those jobs and couldn't fill those jobs with people who applied, and they had to ship people in from outside of the state to fill those jobs, which I think was a reflection of the quality of education that you have in San Antonio. And so what you say is GFHISD has 30% of their kids that aren't graduating, and if, as you heard in the video, if at HEB we're having to rewrite our training manuals from an 8th grade literacy level to a 5th grade literacy level, and we're just a supermarket, I mean, we aren't doing rocket science, well, how's that going to bode for energy or technology or high tech or the other types of high paying jobs that we're looking to attract into our community? And I think the answer is not well, because unlike HEB, who has bricks and mortar on the ground, a lot of these companies can simply go and move somewhere else. And so investing in education, I think, is absolutely critical.
But we've got to figure out a way to plug the gaps, and there are lots of gaps. It goes back to poverty. I mean, when it really comes down to it, if a child is hungry or a child lacks medical care, it's going to be really hard, even if mom and dad and whoever else is in that family trying to get the child ready for kindergarten. I have yet to meet a parent in any housing project in Houston, in any neighborhood, even if they are on abusing substances or in incredibly chaotic homes, they want their kids to succeed, unless they're in that tiny minute effort where they are just so ill that they cannot focus on what is right. So really what we've got to do is just figure out a way to keep doing what we're doing, but in a way that demonstrates that the investment really does pay off, so that and this is just Tammy Kahn speaking, please don't hold this against Children's Museum, the policymakers who don't see the value in making this investment at the right time in the life of our people can make better decisions.
We've all kind of talked about collaboration and partnerships and working together. And I think the difference that we're seeing, which has been mentioned a couple of times, is how we're working together and what we're working towards. And I think that that's really changing, I think, in our community. And I'm not sure it was mentioned earlier, I can't remember if Scott or Veronica mentioned this term, but the whole notion of collective impact. So moving from collaboration to a collective impact framework. And what that means is that we're working towards shared goals, but we also have shared outcomes and metrics for holding ourselves accountable. And I think that's the big difference in collaboration and collective impact.